This is a quick overview of PulseTile, the tools that we use to design the individual wireframes and the tools that we use to share and gather feedback, and how we actually make changes and ongoing revisions to existing wireframes. And within this document here we can see all the individual screens that we've produced that make up the current showcase version of PulseTile, from the initial launch, the landing screen, the landing page, the business intelligence views, through to the multi-patient view as we delve down and find information about patients, how we would select individual patients or find out information about them, and then the single patient view and how we would view information about them, various sections such as the problems, medications, allergies, and each of these individual sections has been mocked up within one Sketch document. One of the great things about Sketch is that things can be reused. So we'll notice that a number of different elements, for example the nav bar at the top, is actually reused throughout a number of different designs, and we use symbols as part of that so that we can essentially create one symbol in one place. We can make a change to it, so for example I could change this to dark text, and this symbol would then be applied to every instance that it appears throughout the document. One of the great things about Sketch as well is that sometimes symbols can be given overrides, and we can write different types of content into a symbol. So for example, in this version we want to show somebody who's done a search for Keddy. We want to replace the word search because they've already typed something in, but we don't want to have to create a completely new symbol because we might be using this a number of different times. So these search overrides that we defined here allow us to essentially change an individual symbol in every instance that it's applied, which is very helpful. Another great thing is, as we turn to look at palettes and different versions of branded versions of PulseTile, all of our colours are actually stored in one place. We can do find and replace colour matches throughout all the screens on all the slides on the design. As our buttons are also applied in multiple places, we can change something in one place to anything we want, and we can see those changes applied to every instance, which is very helpful. We use a tool called Envision to share all of our designs that are produced through Sketch, and this is a great tool because it allows us to collect feedback from all the members of the team and continually revise and improve the designs that we've developed. So on the screen here we see the dashboard for Envision. These are all the slides that we've produced within this project, and clicking into any of these slides allows us to view it as you would within a browser, so everything's the right size. Now one of the great things about this is we have a comment mode, and we can use this feature to provide feedback about existing areas of the design, allocate tasks to individual members of the team, and identify when things have been changed. So as an example on this screen we can see that the forgotten password has a typo. Somebody's raised a comment and said there's a typo on this design. Now one of the great things about Sketch is this talks to Envision, so I can easily see this on my design. I can make the revision within Sketch, and I can very quickly apply that change out to Envision using a tool called Craft, which is used to sync those designs out. So this essentially just takes the wireframe, extracts all the assets, builds a flattened JPEG of the image, and then uploads that directly into Envision. So if I task switch out to Envision, I can see that the change has now come through, and I can see my task. I can mark that as resolved. And this is a really great way of speeding up the design cycle. So we can very quickly put out revisions. We can put out initial slides, we can collect feedback, we can make revisions very quickly. There's no need to really leave more than 2 different screens at any one time, and the benefit of that is that we can iterate throughout the design process very quickly and effectively. One of the other great things about Envision is that we can also use it to provide and set notes for the developers when they actually come to building the slides, the screens within the system. A good example of this is not just using comments to identify issues or change requests, but we can use it to generate comments. So for example, if we have a login button here and we want to make it clear what we want that behavior to be, let's say for example displaying terms. We can set this as a comment. It isn't a task that needs to be completed for a designer, but when a developer essentially picks this up, they know the behavior of this button, and they can implement that a lot more effectively. And of course, it works like comments. If they have any questions about it, they can always raise them in line with the comments. So Envision, in a way, is kind of a midway point between the design phase and the development phase, and we can collect that information together. Envision also allows us to have a build mode, so the developer can actually inspect individual elements. They can find out the background colors and the overall styling used to get measurements as close to the design as possible. And in some way, it can also provide some of the raw CSS the developer can use to build everything through.